let's see if it's all going to work, because I've been having all sorts of glitchy things happening tonight. So we didn't mention Scientology again this time. So I don't know what's causing it.
Said it. And I didn't bring my tinfoil hat.
Ah, tinfoil hats. Yes, you were talking all about that, weren't you?
Yes. Now, is this what topic that we're talking about? Is that going to involve needing of wearing tinfoil hats?
Well, if you watch the film Signs, yes. I remember that famous scene with Joaquin Phoenix and the kids in the back with the little tinfoil hats on and everything. So it gives it away.
I have not watched that movie in a long time.
Yeah. I only had to watch it once or twice, but I think the biggest scene out of all of it that actually freaked me out was where they were watching a little video of the kids' party in Mexico, and then you just see that sort of figure just rush past the. It's like, oh, that gives you goosebumps. That, I think that's what makes it better for me, because once you see it, you've seen it. But when you, it leaves a lot to the imagination. It's sort of, you know. And this is a topic that's very close to my heart. This thing's, well, the whole thing.
You are a big fanatic on these sorts of stuff. You've got a nice mirrored one on your desk. Well, it's not so much that, but it's to do with it. But don't pick it up, you break the legs.
I know, little disco ball, flying saucer. I've got a levitating one back there.
Yes, you have. And I suppose this one could be referenced with Max as well, right there, just over your right.
Hello, everybody. What Jeremy and Gary meant to say is, I'm always shining bright, even when my batteries are flat.
No, he's my mate. He's good. So, but yeah, we're talking about alien abduction tonight, and there are a few very famous cases, and some of them have had movies made about them and things like that. So I believe you've been.
But he wasn't. I spent days researching with 7 dogs and helicopters. Walter remained missing for 5 days and 6 hours. That's a decent time to be away. There was helicopters. They also, for those days also, Walton had also called his sister on the 12th of November from a payphone in Herbert, Arizona, where he claimed to have reappeared after being abducted. That's that's a long time to miss, to be missing for.
Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't just that though. What happened was this fantastic story that his workmates told the police. They actually thought the workmates had murdered him, and they were just trying to come up with some really out there story to get away with it. Now, they were all put under polygraph tests and things like that, and every one of them passed. And I don't want to be derogatory to lumber workers and things like that, but they're probably not the smartest people in the world when it comes to things like trying to trick not when it comes to like tricking a polygraph and things like that. Now, each and every one of them, their stories were all the same when they were all questioned in separate rooms, and then they were ready to charge him with murder, even though they couldn't find a body. And then, of course, Travis Walton turned up 5-6 days later on, and obviously murder was off the card then. But then they thought they were just coming up with this big story to basically to sensationalize the whole thing and get their 5 minutes worth of fame. But if you ever seen an interview with Travis Walton, he's not the kind of guy that chases glory or anything like that. And what happened was they said about him being abducted, but initially he didn't remember anything. He couldn't remember anything. He doesn't know what happened. It was missing time basically, and it was through regression that he started to remember a lot of things that happened. Now he's passed all the polygraph tests as well, so everything that they saw, to be as politically correct as we can be, they believed they saw. So they weren't faking it or anything like that. And it was the things that started happening, and there were certain physical tells on him that they found, and it really messed with him once these hypnotherapy sessions and the regression sessions started happening, because there was things there that he probably wouldn't have wanted to remember. And ultimately they made a movie about it called Fire in the Sky. And if you've ever seen that, and they obviously, with any film, they take it to the next level, obviously for entertainment value, but some of the things that happen to them are very, very, very freaky. to say the least.
You can understand people trying to say that he was, making this up for 5 minutes of fame and whatnot. His past that he had probably wasn't the greatest of pasts.
No.
Look, as we all, we've had things we've done in the past that, have nothing to do with how we are now. But, they tried to not hold against him, but, use when he's admitted to experimenting with obviously marijuana, stimulants, and LSD, obviously in his earlier years, and they thought they could try and associate that with him being abducted, if you'd like to say. But, everyone has a past for a reason, and it stays a past.
Well, and also the whole thing about abduction or a close encounter of the fourth kind, it's not just him. It's happened to many, many people. And
it's happened to a lot more people than what I actually thought of would have been.
Yeah.
It's a lot more common.
Now, obviously, there are different levels of credibility to a lot of these people that have been abducted, but Betty and Barney Hill, they're another one, which is one of the more famous ones. It's probably one of the first. Now, I think it was more sensationalized because this was back in the 60s, and they were actually a mixed race couple. So there was already controversy about them then, and then to come out with this story. But again, they were separated and their stories matched, and there's actually evidence on the car and different things like that. So yeah, it's a scary thing, because when you talk about national security and people invading from another country and whatever, they've got to actually travel across the world and things like that. But when you're talking about alien abductions and things like that, you've got almost no defense from that, because there's nothing between you.
What's the government going to do?
And what's above? They have technology far above and beyond anything that happens on Earth. That Tic Tac video and the gimbal video that you've seen from the Nimitz and things like that. Even back then, the technology is far beyond anything that our most advanced jets could even hope to come close to.
When you're moving that fast directional, it's absolutely crazy. It's not just one way.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that when you talk about abduction and things like that, they obviously, these experiments that they do with them and stuff, they're either not taking them very far, or they have some other form of propulsion, as whether it be like a wormhole drive or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? A dimensional rift kind of thing, because with the laws of physics, as you approach the speed of light, by the time they come back, even if it's gone for a few hours, years will have gone past here. But with them coming back within such a short period of time, they might have just gone somewhere else and done these. Might not have even left Earth orbit. They might have gone somewhere over the ocean and done these experiments or whatever. You know what I mean? Because they're back within a few days.
Who's to say it's not a cloaking device?
Well, yes.
Who's saying they're even leaving it all? Like
Star Trek 4, mate.
Well, not even pointing to that, but if these sources, ships, whatever you want to call them, if they're as big as what people are saying, why would they have the need to move if they've got the facilities on board?
Well, some of them. But you look at the Phoenix Lights. I know we're getting a little bit off topic in relation to abduction itself, but we're still within the whole UFO thing. Now, the Phoenix Lights, that was like a giant boomerang, which was about 2 or 3 football fields across. So, and it was just traveling really slow. It had one of the largest numbers of witnesses across, I think it was 2 or 3 states, certainly several towns and things like that. And if they've got the technology to do something like that, I have no doubt that they can cloak a ship, or at least make it invisible to us.
They'd have to be able to, otherwise how are they getting in and out so quick?
Yeah. And another thing that's a big report about a lot of these alien abduction things like that is their ability to actually, they don't have to come through doors. What they say is, once you've been hit by that beam, you can float up and you'll go straight through the ceiling. So they're actually, you know how they say everything resonates at a certain frequency, a certain vibration, a certain speed of vibration and things like that. Now the theory is, when you match the same speed and everything, then you can technically pass through something. and maybe they've mastered that technology where they can, because they say they beam them straight through a ceiling. Not beam them, but they just float up through a ceiling and then straight up. So that is far beyond anything that we've got the capabilities for at the moment. And you've got to wonder, what are they, they're doing all these experiments and things, so there's so many questions that come about it. What are they doing these experiments for? Who are they? There's
I suppose
lots.
that's why they lump it into the unexplained.
Yeah.
Because you can't, like, there's no, straight thinking person that's like, yep, this is exactly what's going on. No one has an idea whatsoever.
Oh, we have ideas, but actually being able to prove something, what I mean?
Yeah, proving their ideas.
Now, when you talk about alien abductions, the whole question of hybrids come up, hybrid kids, quite often pregnant ladies. Well, usually how it works is they're not pregnant, they get abducted, and then when they're back, they're pregnant, and then usually once they're sort of close to full term, they get abducted again, and they are unpregnated. When they come back, the baby's gone, and it makes you wonder, okay, it's obviously something genetic that they're after. Is there something that we've got that they need? And rather than ask a question, they just do these things because they can?
I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
If they can't find you.
Well, I mean, we are so archaic. We're a war-mongering, basically, people. There's not a day go by that there isn't some sort of conflict on the planet. Maybe they're scared. It's like, lock the doors, we're going to go down, we're going to nab someone quick, and we're going to get out before they notice. Maybe that's what it's like. They just don't want to be seen in the neighborhood, so to speak.
Some people, some small articles I've read actually try and tie in sleep paralysis to being abducted as well. Now, I'm not 100% sure how they're trying to make it work.
Well, they're
saying there's a gradient between being awake and in REM sleep.
That's very similar thing to the old Hag syndrome, because what they say is when you go to sleep, your body needs to obviously recoup and regenerate. It can't do that if you're moving around and everything. So once you're asleep, what it does is it basically shuts off functions to your limbs and things like that to try and keep you fairly immobile while you're sleeping. You can move a little bit, but there's no fast, jolty things. And that's the thing about sleep paralysis. If you wake up in such a shock so suddenly, your brain, the disconnect, especially if there are aliens or spirits involved, that disconnect means you can't actually move. And
sorry, I've got really bad eyes at the moment.
Allergies.
Yeah.
You can't move, so that's where sleep paralysis comes in. It's it is what it is. It has been proven that is the case. Now, there's been times when I've actually woken out of a dead sleep, gone to get up, and I don't know what's happened, but I've actually flown up, but then suddenly my limbs would not work, and I've just gone face down because it takes a few seconds for it to kick in.
I'd call that one the lieutenant down because you just can't feel your legs.
Yeah, my legs, I can't feel my legs. Yeah.
No, but I've had it happen to me a few times where you startle yourself in your sleep or whatever. You snore or you burp in your sleep, and you're like, oh crap, what was that? And the moment that you go to move, it's like, hang on a second, my arms aren't working.
Yeah.
Why are they not working?
No, that's it. Now, my story about what got me involved when I saw the flying saucer at a young age. And I say a flying saucer because it wasn't unidentified. It's just something that I saw from about 50 or 60 meters away, so it was very close. And it affected my whole life. So, that was when I was 7 years old, and I'm old now. And what happened was, maybe a year or two later on, we moved house, and we had, if you're rich in England, you get a bungalow, which is like a single story house, what we all live in here. We were far from rich. We had a two-bedroom house. So my brother and I had to share a room. Now, I had the bed near the window, and then he had the bed on the other side of the room. And I remember waking up one night with the same feeling that I had the night that I saw the flying saucer from the last house, which was a 2-story house, and mine was the only bedroom at the back, so nobody else saw it there, but it did make it onto the TV, so we know that there was definitely something there. Now, this second time in the next house, I woke up and I had that same feeling, and I sort of kneeled up, chin on the windowsill, because there was a slightly high windowsill on this house, and I just opened the corners of the curtains. Now, there's the windowsill, there's the window right in front of you, literally right there. What I described, and in my head, is it was basically a skull looking back at me, and it had some sort of a hat, which for some reason I'm thinking it looked like the old officers' hats from the Second World War and things like that. I don't know, but that's just what's in my head. But this skull was looking at me. Now, when you describe a skull, it's basically a very pale face with dark circles where the eyes would be, which describes your typical grey. Now, I never thought anything about it. That was just something that I witnessed, and I didn't think anything of it until that film, The Fourth Kind, came out with Mila Jovovich, or however you pronounce her name. And in that one, they say it's based on real events, and they said that they show actual footage, which I don't know if it is or not, but whether it was based on real events, I don't know. But what they described, each one of these people that had these encounters with the aliens in that film, and supposed true story, all witnessed seeing an owl at the window. And the owl that they showed you was like a white owl with the dark eyes. So what does that... when I watched that, I actually started to get goosebumps, because I started having flashbacks to this thing that I witnessed. And it made me wonder about it. Maybe it was something to do with the craft that I'd seen. Now, jump forward. That was it. I sort of went back, crawled down. Nothing happened. Maybe 6 months later, because this was all a new area, and we were in an area that was sort of just established now. Over the other side of where the school was, there was Spooky Wood, which we all used to love playing there. And then there was the new area just on, this is right on the edge of farms, right? So you had the school, at the end of the school field was Spooky Wood. You go through Spooky Wood and you're in farm country. Actually, it was turnip farms on the other side, because we used to go there and nick a few turnips and things. Now, yeah, we were mischievous little kids. Now, there was one night there, one evening, when we were messing around, me and my two mates, where they were putting the drains in, but there were these big, massive drains that you could walk through. Not yet to bend down, but kids could sort of crawl through them and stuff. And we were playing around them, and we all three of us saw the same UFO again. So this time they saw it as well, and it was just coming across, and we hid in in one of those drains, and I was freaking out. Because I'd seen it before, and they were both in absolute shock because they were seeing something for the first time.
Yep.
And no noise, but as it came over the top, there was just the ever so slightest bit of a buzz. You could feel your skin was alive, as if there was a little bit of a vibration, but it was no noise, and then once it was gone, it was gone. Now that was it for my experiences as a child anyway, the big ones that I like to say, the big three. And what happened was, obviously when we started Wapper Up back in 2009, we brought a psychic lady on board, and she used to do different sessions with people. And this was actually before I told everybody, because it takes me a while to tell people a story. Now everybody in the bloody world knows if they watch these videos. But back then, it was something I kept very, very, very hush-hush. Obviously for the same reason that a lot of people do, and that is because you get looked at like you're a bloody wacko.
Oh, I do constantly.
Yeah. But in this psychic session, she got us to do these certain things. Now, she was actually describing what I was seeing. Weird noises there then. Going through, and the house that was being described, it was my old house. The first one where I saw the UFO the first time. And you go in through the front door, and she was describing you go up through the steps, because you'd walk in through the front door, and then the steps were up to go to the first floor. Now, it curved around at the top, and then there was a bathroom on your right, and then the first door was my bedroom at the back, and then the other two bedrooms were at the front. And as this door opened, and I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this now. As this door opened, I was like going in, and it was night time. And I was looking across the room, because my door was on the opposite corner to where my bed used to be and where the window was. And I saw myself looking through the window, obviously what I'm assuming was the UFO. Now, it's the weirdest thing you have ever experienced. If you haven't gone through this, I don't know how to describe it. It's just very weird. Now, I started hearing those same noises that I heard back then. So this was lots of stuff that was coming in. And then as I sort of turned around, there was a grey alien sort of right beside me, in, you know, where I was sort of stood in this, I don't know what you call it, but looking at me as a kid over on the far side. And after that session, she pulled me aside and she said, "You know that you have been abducted about 5 times?" And she goes, "And they're not finished yet, it's going to keep happening." I said, "Well, no." I said, "I don't have a problem telling you that I've seen the UFOs, but I have no recollection, not even the slightest, to say that I may have been abducted." She said, "You have." And she goes, "And if you look closely, you will find signs on your body that you have been." Now, I don't know, but there are tattoos all over me now, covering. There's a bit in here which I don't know what it is, and it's been there as long as I can remember, but it's very interesting stuff. So I don't know if I have. If I haven't, I've got no recollection of it. I'm not claiming I have. I'm just telling you what I've been told. And it's very, very, very weird. One of the big things about abductions as well is that it tends to run in families. There's an actual movie made for TV movie sort of mini series of about 6 shows called Taken.
Yes, I've seen that. Yes,
and it follows the same family over 2 or 3 generations. Yes. And I think little Dakota Fanning was in it, if I'm not mistaken. And it's very surreal. Now, I can understand, coming from a person who has been abducted, I can understand why they don't want to talk about these things, because I'm saying I haven't been. I've been told I have, but I haven't been, and I still don't want to talk about these things now. So very, very, very.
Have you heard the names Charles Hickson and Kelvin Parker Jr.?
I have heard the names, but I can't put a story to it.
They were one of the first well-documented abductions where the police have actually believed them. So in 1973, they were fishing not far from an alleyway. One of them come back to go bait up the hook, and the next thing they know, they felt vibrations and humming noises in the sky.
Yeah. Oh, vibrations. That's what I was just telling you. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying about this. They told authorities they'd been abducted by aliens. They each had a puncture wound in one arm, and police tried to catch them in a lie, but it didn't work, as both men later passed polygraph tests.
Remember, I pointed to a spot down here as well.
So the riverbank where the men said the close encounter happened actually got a historical marker, calling it the best documented case of an alien abduction.
Yeah.
They avoided media, obviously, for decades, and Hickson died in 2011, so when they went to release the plaque, he actually wasn't there. He was saying, what was it? Hickson told the Washington Post, "When I heard a kind of zipping sound, I looked up and saw a blue flashing light. Calvin turned around too. We saw a 30-foot long object with a dome top.
Yeah.
As it hovered just above the ground, 3 small creatures emerged, Also hovering, he said the men were suddenly paralysed. The creatures grabbed them with pincer-type claws and pulled them towards the object. I floated inside, Parker told the Biloxi Sun-Herald in 2018. Hickson said they were subject to physical examination by something that looked like a big eye and constant mechanical sound buzzing the whole time. When they were dropped right back off in the dark Delta Alley, where they started, Hickson found Parker standing up, arms raised to the sky and screaming. He told the post they ran for help.
Yep.
How would you be going to the sheriff's office? And the sheriff's office like, nah, not even going to help you.
Well, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I didn't, we've got to go because we are out of time. But one quick one is check out a book called The Janus People. That is one that my dad actually was introduced to because my dad used to be a production manager where he used to work. And there was a guy there. I was only it was right around the time because it was at the same house. And he was right into it. And he actually ended up, maybe it was because Dad mentioned about me seeing this thing, but he actually gave him this book called The Janus People. And it's about a whole family that had been abducted. And they polygraphed the kids. They took them all into separate rooms. And even years later, their stories never changed one tiny little bit. Everyone, everything, every fact was identical from each of the family members. And the big thing to take from that is little kids. If you tell them to say something, I can guarantee you 5 minutes later it'll change slightly.
Oh, 100%
so for everything to be so spot on, they say that's one of the most credible cases, and it's definitely a book worth reading. All right, take it easy, guys.
See ya.
See ya.